Duramax lb7 and probably quite a few others. I found absolutely nothing worthwhile on the web about changing the oil pump. So I'm sorry I didn't have time to do a full video, but some of the major pitfalls of doing this that I came across, I will point out to you so that you are aware. First off, I would not even once think about doing this without changing the water pump, without changing the sensors, cam sensor and crank sensor. One video out there on an lb7 oil pump change, it says to pull off the front clip. Absolutely not necessary at all. It also says you're going to drain everything. Also not necessary. I've got a couple lb7s sitting here that I'm going to walk you through a little bit about what kind of problems you run into. First off is the pan. You absolutely have to drop the pan. There's no way around it. So you take the front cover off first, of course, and to get to that, you know, the vibration dampener has a huge, I think it's a 45 millimeter nut on it. To break that loose, if you go onto your transmission and pop the inspection cover, inspection plate, it's located right there where that hole is. You can put a pry bar in there, or you can buy one of the kits that have teeth. Not necessary at all. You can get it off with no problem. Let's see, on the front of the engine, I don't really see anything major that was bad. The main thing that you have to do is pull the transmission back and remove this bolt. And there's one on the other side, and those two bolts go into the oil pan. There's the other one right there. You go under the oil pan. Of course, the oil pan's two pieces. You want to pop the dipstick when you do that also. The truck I did it on is a four-wheel drive. It's very simple. There is one bolt on the driver's side near the steering gear up a little bit. If you take that one bolt out, and there's two nuts on the passenger side of the transaxle, that lets you drop the whole thing. You'll also need to drop the bar that goes from the steering gear to the, I think it's called an idler, part of the steering. Drop that and you'll be able to get the pan down where you have no problem doing anything. You can really make a lot of room. Taking the sprocket or the gear off of the crankshaft, after you've got the vibration dampener, the bolt out, it just slides off. You don't need a puller or anything. Once you get the front cover off, the next thing that needs to come off is the gear that is on the crankshaft. It's got I guess the sending, not the sending unit, but the encoder for the crankshaft pulley. What the heck am I trying to think of? Crankshaft. You know, it sees how there's a cam sensor and a crank sensor to see what they're spinning, how they're spinning. Well, here's the crank one right there. Crankshaft one's right there. So there's a wheel on there. You can easily get the gear off without dropping the pan, but it'll bend it, and that's not good. So that slides off, but you might need to use a crowbar, one on each side, to get it started. Once you get it started, it'll be fine. You got pins on the crankshaft that center not just the vibration dampener, but also that gear that runs the it runs the oil pump. Yeah, it runs the oil pump. The oil pump, of course, you can't get any of that off until you get the pan. You can loosen everything, but you can't take it off. So let's see, as a recap, you need to drop the pan, you need to pull the tranny back for tightening and loosening. No, you're no problem on the getting the bolts out of the torque converter, because you got to do that to get the engine apart. Right there is the opening. That is not a torque converter bolt hole. I'll show you a torque converter bolt hole. They are all not countersunk, but they look like that. They are beveled. That has a bolt in there just from me messing around. But you can see that they're undercut, and that much. That is a torque converter bolt hole, and you can see the radius that they have here. You need to get it in the center if you're going to get a socket on it. That's helpful. I don't think I had any other real true problems other than those two things, or those things. It's time consuming, 3 or 4 days, 3 or 4 long days, depending on if you're doing it alone or not. So there you go, tips and tricks for lb7 and probably LMM and the YY should be probably all the same. Oil pump removal.